Hey everyone, Vince Bryan here with BAM Weather. Appreciate you taking a couple minutes here to listen to a couple things that I just want to take a few minutes to discuss here in terms of recent forecasts. So, over the past couple of days, over the weekend here, yesterday and on Saturday, it's no secret that our forecast did not pan out. We are well aware of that more than anyone else. Anytime a forecast does not go right, anytime things go different than what we thought, there's, again, no secret, no hiding it. We are more aware than anyone else that the thoughts did not pan out here. And so for any of you that had made decisions based on our forecast that didn't pan out exactly as what we thought, obviously, we apologize. I can promise you from everyone here at BAM Weather, we are giving this our best 24/7, 365. In terms of these patterns, not to make excuses, but just to give you the reality of the situation, these are very finicky setups at times where it just takes a little bit of a deviation to really blow up an entire forecast, and that's ultimately what happens. So again, we will continue to learn, to grow, to try and get better. But again, want to come on here and not only apologize for a couple missed forecasts, because again, there's no one that knows better that we missed it than ourselves, but also try and explain why. Several of you have reached out asking, hey, why did the forecast these past couple days go so wrong? And so I want to take a minute to not only acknowledge that, but also kind of show you that. So let's go ahead and start out with Saturday's forecast issued at the morning onset here. We were already rather aggressive than what data had for a multitude of reasons here. And I don't want to get too technical in this video, but what I do want to mention is I want to kind of use the analogy of a domino effect. Let's imagine we have 10 dominoes all lined up. As you push one, let's say the goal after the 10th domino is to knock an object at the very end over. It's going to take every domino falling in place perfectly for that to happen. And that was essentially this forecast. The opportunity was there. We saw that. We wanted to relay that. It was an aggressive forecast to begin with, but even at that, things did not even kind of remotely get to what we thought could happen here. And so what I want to do is let this loop for a moment. This is essentially what had happened in terms of the forecast. So this area, and I'll let this re-loop here, there was a cluster moving in across parts of northern Iowa that we thought would move through eastern Iowa, would hit a much better environment across parts of Illinois, Indiana here into northern Kentucky and western Ohio, and really set the stage for what could have been a nasty afternoon in terms of storms. Now, what happened, notice these storms out ahead of this. This small little line of storms, in our opinion, threw a total wrench in terms of the entire forecast here. This would be like having that line of 10 dominoes and taking one of them and twisting it, taking one of them and totally removing it from the equation. It really just led to a total bust of the forecast. What this did, those storms messed with the environment out ahead of the main cluster, because the cluster was already ongoing. It was happening. And so again, these storms out ahead, you can see them right here, this line. Here's our cluster. As this line formed, it totally messed with the environment this cluster was about to work into as it dove itself south and east. As it did, you can see widespread showers and a few thunderstorms started to develop, and at this point, our cluster was a total mess. It is just widespread showers, a few pockets of stronger storms at this point, but it totally messed up the forecast for Saturday. We certainly did not anticipate there to be as strong of coverage and as widespread out ahead of the cluster. This ultimately led to the missed forecast. And so again, you can imagine this as just taking 2 dominoes out of those entire 10 rows, removing them from the equation, and we never got our object to fall at the end of the domino effect, aka our forecast was a total miss on Saturday. There were only a few severe thunderstorm warnings at that. So again, we acknowledge it, we own it, we accept it. This map absolutely did not pan out, and I wanted to, again, explain part of the reason why. Now, moving into Sunday, this was the map that we had issued in the morning hours of Sunday here for 2 reasons. One, we were favoring another cluster to work through parts of kind of central Illinois, central southern Indiana, into southwest Ohio in the kind of late morning, early afternoon hours, and then a second round developing in the evening into the early overnight. Both of those did happen, however, they were just in different spots. And so what I'll do is kind of move to the radar. Here was the cluster once again. This is Sunday morning now. It was there. The difference here is that there were a few subtle boundaries or areas of essentially winds that were coming together that allowed for this cluster to move more east than we thought versus southeast. And so again, our map for flooding, a better risk, from the Davenport, Iowa areas through Springfield, Illinois, through Indianapolis, kind of right in here. But you'll notice again, as this loops from that Sunday morning time frame, notice how there's a few of these just due west to east areas of heavier precip. That just allowed this to propagate or move a little bit more west to east than what we had anticipated. And so again, this morning rain that was heavy for some spots, we just thought would be a little bit more northwest to southeast rather than straight west to east. So that was kind of miss number one. The idea of the cluster was there, it just was not in the right area. In terms of then the secondary kind of pocket, getting into the late afternoon, evening, overnight hours, again, we anticipated it to be from about Galesburg, Illinois to Indianapolis to Cincinnati. It just set up about 50 to 75 miles south of there in terms of kind of more so west central Illinois through, Decatur, Illinois, Bloomington, Indiana, Cincinnati, Ohio. So both of the ideas were there. They were just off on placement. And so again, this map from Sunday morning in terms of a flood threat ended up being, much too aggressive from Peoria to Champaign and Indianapolis. In a perfect world, and hindsight's obviously 2020, the map probably was a little aggressive to begin with, but the area that set up for the better opportunity for heavier rains ultimately looked a little something more like that. So again, two forecasts Saturday and Sunday. They're highly complex. They both really, Saturday's forecast depended on how Friday afternoon and evening played out in spots, and then Sunday's forecast depended on Saturday. So again, sometimes for those of you that are clients or follow along to our forecast, we call these domino effect forecasts, how one forecast pans out and verifies impacts the other, which impacts the other, which impacts the other here. So again, not to make excuses, not to say, well, this is we were wrong because of this, but it's important for us to explain what went wrong, why it went wrong, and then ultimately how we're going to learn from this. And so, our team is going to continue to kind of dive into the specifics of what happened, what we can look for in weather model data the next time this happens to go, hey, this is a perfect example of what went wrong last time. We need to learn from this, and really dissecting, analyzing, and growing from that. So again, we certainly apologize. We're never going to claim to be 100%. I can assure you we give it our best foot forward 24/7, 365. Our team's going to learn from this. And again, just wanted to give everyone kind of some explanations as to what went wrong, how it went wrong, and more importantly, why it went wrong and what we're going to learn from this. So as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. We appreciate your support. Have a great rest of your day.